In this video, we are going to practice converting fractions to percentages and converting percentages back to fractions. So just a quick review, a percent is a number out of 100. So it looks like as a fraction, it would be the number that we have out of 100. So for example, if we have a test that is worth 100 points and we earned 95 of the points, because we have 95 out of 100, we would have a 95%. So that's just a quick review of what a percentage actually is. So we'll do a couple examples of changing percentages to fractions. So this is pretty simple because we know that a percent is a number out of 100. So our first example is 25%. So to write a percentage as a fraction, we simply put that number over 100. But we don't just leave it like this. We know we can simplify this fraction. We can divide both the numerator and the denominator by 25 because it is a common factor between both of the numbers. 25 divided by 25 is 1, and 100 divided by 25 is 4. So 25% written as a fraction would be 1/4. Do another example. 3%. We would write this as a fraction as 3 over 100. We always start with putting the percentage over 100. And here we see that we cannot simplify this fraction anymore. So 3% as a fraction would be 3 over 100. We'll do one more example of this. 10%. Again, we take our number and place it over 100. We see that we can simplify this fraction because they have a common factor, which is 10. So we'll divide both the numerator and the denominator by 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1, and 100 divided by 10 is 10. So 10% as a fraction in the simplest form would be 1/10. Okay, moving on to converting fractions to percentages. So this is a little bit different. We will start with the example 3/5. We know again that a percent is a number out of 100. So we want to know what fraction 3/5 would be if we had a denominator of 100. So now we're thinking, okay, how do we get from 5 to 100? We multiplied by 20. Whatever we do to the denominator, we also have to do to the numerator. Three times 20 would give us a numerator of 60. Therefore, 3/5 as a percentage would be 60%. We changed our denominator to 100 by multiplying by 20. So we also did the same thing to the numerator, which gave us a new numerator of 60. 60 out of 100 would be 60%. Do another example. 7/10. Again, we know that we need a denominator of 100 for this to be converted to a percentage. So we're thinking, what did we do to 10 to get to 100? We multiplied by 10. So we'll do the same thing to the numerator. 7 times 10 would give us a numerator of 70. And 70 out of 100 would be 70%. So 7/10 as a percentage would be 70. do one more example of this. (20 25ths). Again, denominator needs to be 100. To get from 25 to 100, we would multiply by 4. Same thing to the numerator. 20 times 4 gives me a new numerator of 80. 80 out of 100 means 80%. Now, if you notice something with all of these examples, all of our original denominators, so our 5, our 10, and our 25, are factors of 100. We can multiply a number by each of these to get us directly to 100. And we know that this is not always the case. So in our next examples, we're going to practice turning fractions into percentages when the denominators are not factors of 100. Okay? So our first example, we will use 3/6. Now this is a pretty simple one. You might be able to think of this just off the top of your head, just by looking at the fraction. But we know that we need a denominator of 100 in order to find the percentage. Now, there's no way that we can get from 6 to 100. So that's why we add another step in here. We have to divide. So we're going to divide 3/6 to find a decimal. And then from there, we'll be able to convert it into a percentage. So again, our numerator goes inside our 3, and our denominator goes outside. 6 does not go into 3. We place a 0 and a decimal, bring down to 0. 6 divides into 30 5 times. 5 times 6 is 30, and we have a remainder of 0. So 3/6 is also equal to 5/10. From here, 5/10, we are going to write that as a fraction. 5/10, which we practiced before when changing decimals to fractions. From here, we can take this and realize now we can get a denominator of 100. 10 times 10 gets me to 100, so I do the same thing to the numerator. 5 times 10 will give me a numerator of 50. So 3/6, written as a percentage, would be 50%. So to think about it, if you took a quiz that had 6 questions on it, and you got 3 right, you would have gotten half of the questions correct, therefore 50%. Our next example will be 9/12. So again, to write a fraction as a percentage, we need a denominator of 100. But we know that we cannot get from 12 to 100 by multiplying. So again, we're going to have to divide. Numerator goes inside, denominator on the outside. 12 does not go into 9. Place a 0, a decimal, and fill in another 0. 12 divides into 90 7 times. 2 times 7 is 14. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 1 more is 8. We're left with 84. We subtract and get 6. Bring down another 0. 12 divides into 60 5 times evenly. 5 times 12 is 60. We'd subtract and get 0. So from here, we ended up with a decimal, 0.75. So we could either write this as a fraction or just use the rule that we or we move our decimal 2 places to the right to find the decimal. But for the sake of explaining, I'm going to write it as a fraction first. So 75 hundredths, because my 5 is in the hundredths place. So I would write that 75 over 100, which we know is equal to 75%. So 9/12 as a percentage is 75%. So again, if you took a quiz that had 12 problems on it and you got 9 of them correct, you would have earned 75%, or you would have gotten 75% of the questions correct. We will do one more of this. $12 15ths. So another way that we can work with these fractions and turning them to percents is we could realize that first we could simplify the fraction. This makes it a lot easier working with kind of smaller numbers. So a common factor between 12 and 15 is 3. So we could divide both the numerator and denominator by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. We now realize that we can get to a denominator of 100 since we now have a numerator or a denominator of 5. So how did we get from 5 to 100? We multiplied by 20. So we do the same thing to the numerator. 4 times 20 would give me a numerator of 80. And 80 out of 100 is equal to 80%. So 12 out of 15 is an 80%.